Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 78 of the Unstoppable Entertainment Show, the most comprehensive entertainment news show on the internet. I am, of course, Nate Schaffner, otherwise known as the Unstoppable Nate. How are you all doing? I hope your guys' day continues to go well. I know mine is. I hope that you enjoyed um, the most recent episode, and I hope you enjoy this episode as well. And I hope that this show provides a brief break from whatever it is that you're going through in life. Got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about on this episode. Um, but before I get started, I just wanted to remind everybody that if you like this show, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, spread the word, tell your friends. Also, if you have a comment, a question, or if you'd like me to talk about certain movies or franchises, you can email me anytime at the address listed in the description of this video. Excuse me. So, with that out of the way, let's get started with this. Um, well, it seems that the Paramount Warner Brothers merger continues to uh, encounter roadblocks. So, um, and this next one, this I'm going to go over a couple things that have happened recently. Um, that are that that are quite a big deal. So, um, there's this article. Where did I put it? Okay. There's this article on Variety, published by Gene Medaus on July 13th. That, and I'm just going to read this here. The headline reads that the states seek an injunction to prevent Paramount Warner Brothers deal from closing. So, this article reads California and 11 other states have filed for a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction to prevent the Paramount Warner Brothers deal from closing while the states pursue an antitrust lawsuit. In a motion filed on Monday evening, so this, I should point out again that this article was published on July 13th. The states asked a federal judge to act by July 22nd. Paramount has previously informed the states that it will not close the transaction before that date. So California and 11 other states have filed for a temporary preliminary injunction. As part of the, remember I talked a couple episodes back about how those California and the other states filed a lawsuit. Well, now they filed for a preliminary injunction as part of that lawsuit. So basically, what that means, what the states have asked for, is that the they've what that injunction means. What they've asked for an injunction, and what that means is that they've asked that the deal. So the lawsuit that they filed, and and what this injunction as part of that lawsuit means is that the Paramount, they're asking that the Paramount Warner Brothers merger cannot be closed. They cannot seal that merger. They cannot close the deal until the lawsuit is over. Now, and that lawsuit could last a year or more. So, and they're asking that, and so you, if I'm assuming I'm communicating this properly, they're asking to put a restraining order on the merger until the lawsuit is over, and that lawsuit could last a year or more. Now, as I mentioned on last episode, the deal needs to close before October, otherwise Paramount owes the Warner Brothers shareholders a penalty fee of $650 million and another $650 million every 3 months. So this is starting to create a big problem for Paramount, because originally it was assumed that the deal would be done by now, if not soon. But if this happened, now they asked for the injunction, and maybe my initial thought was maybe Paramount and the states can negotiate, and Paramount can be like, okay, what can we do to make this happen? Now, I am of the understanding that it is my understanding that the executives at Paramount went to the Attorney General of California and said, okay, look, what if we did this merger but without CNN? And it is my understanding that the Attorney General of California said, no, that's not good enough. And it's like, oh, okay, wow, that's not good enough. Okay, so that was July 13th. Now, there's the other article here that I want to read was published 7 days later, on July 20th, on Variety, by Gene Medaus. A federal judge ordered a temporary halt to the Paramount Warner Brothers merger on Monday, as a state coalition argues it would violate federal antitrust law, leading to higher prices and fewer movies and TV shows. So, a federal judge has paused the Paramount Warner Brothers merger as of on July 20th. Judge, and I'm going to mispronounce this name, so forgive me. Judge Araceli Martinez Oguin granted a 14-day restraining order after hearing arguments from both sides on Friday morning. Paramount had previously agreed not to close the transaction before July 22nd. Now, this gets into this article gets into a lot of details about why why this article gets into a lot of details about why the judge made this decision. And basically, this judge, the judge, Judge Martinez Ogwin, made this decision. Um, Hold on. I'm sorry. Um, Hold on just a second. I want to make sure. Okay. So this judge, Araceli Martinez Ogwin, she basically made this decision because she believes. Now remember, the states filed this lawsuit, and then they filed for this injunction, and now the judge has said yes, because they've heard the arguments, and now this judge has granted a 14-day preliminary injunction, because basically she believes that the states that have filed this lawsuit are likely to prove. It gets into a lot of details here, but basically she believes that the states who have filed the lawsuit are likely to prove that this merger will violate Section 7 of the Clayton Act of 1914. Now, for those who don't know what Section 7 of the Clayton Act of 1914 says, here is a basic rundown, because I had to look this up myself. Section 7 of the Clayton Act of 1914 prohibits mergers, acquisitions, and joint ventures where the effect, quote unquote, may be substantially to lessen competition or to tend to create a monopoly, unquote, in any line of commerce or activity affecting commerce. That's what Section 7 of the Clayton Act says. And the judge granted this restraining order because she believes that the states are likely to prove that this merger violates Section 7 of the Clayton Act. Now, there will be, like I said, a temporary restraining order, a temporary injunction that will last until, I believe, what's today? The 2nd? Until tomorrow. So the temporary injunction will last until tomorrow. And tomorrow, the judge will hear a more detailed arguments from both sides, and the judge will decide whether to have this temporary injunction go into full effect until the go into whether the temporary injunction goes into full effect or not. You know, yeah. Here's I see two options here, and I see two options. So basically, tomorrow the judge is going to hear both. The temporary restraining order ends tomorrow. Tomorrow, the judge is going to hear more detailed arguments from both sides and decide whether or not the injunction goes into full effect. I see two outcomes of this. One is that, because Paramount's already in debt. And if this lawsuit continues, which it could last a year or more, then Paramount is going to owe Warner Brothers shareholders $650 million every $650 million in October, and an additional $650 million every 3 months for a whole year. You do the math. And Paramount's already in debt, in tremendous debt. I see two options for this. One is that because of how much in debt Paramount is already in and how much they're going to owe Warner Brothers, I think Paramount either bails on this merger or because, it seems to me that Paramount is willing to fight very hard for this. Like, they want this. Whether we as consumers want this is another story. But it seems pretty clear that the people at Paramount want this merger to happen. The other option is that they go to Warner Brothers and be like, okay, what can we do to make this merger happen? And Warner Brothers is going to give them options, and they're either going to continue to negotiate until it happens. Either that, or Paramount bails on the merger. Personally, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm smarter than David Ellison or his father. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. What I will tell you is that I think the smart decision would be to bail on the merger. You're in Paramount's in debt already. You're going to owe, because if this restraining order is put into full effect, the merger is dead, because the merger will violate this Clayton Act. So I think Paramount is going to go to Warner Brothers shareholders and be like, what can we do to make this right, to make this happen? Personally, I think Paramount will bail. If they're smart, they will. You're already in debt. You're gonna owe Warner Brothers even more money than you can afford. I think they'd be stupid to try to still try to make this merger happen. But that's just me. I think Paramount is going to try to make this happen. And I think Warner Brothers and I think specifically the Warner Brothers shareholders and the attorney generals of these 11 states that have filed this lawsuit, I think they're going to play hardball, and they should, because anybody who's been keeping track of this knows that there are very, very few people, as far as shareholders and as far as consumers go, there are very few people that want this merger to happen. And I, you know, I think the smart decision would be to bail on the merger, but that's just me. But I think they will try to make this happen, and I think the attorney generals of these 11 states and the Warner Brothers shareholders are going to play hardball, and they should. And I can tell you this: if it is determined that this merger violates the Clayton Act, Section 7 of the Clayton Act, then it's dead. It's dead. Which I know will make a lot of people happy, including me. So I just wanted to give you an update on news so far regarding that. This next bit of news is interesting. So, you know, I am really, I am really loving so far this new DC film universe. That's Creature Commandos, Peacemaker Season 2, Superman. I have not seen Supergirl. I've heard it's, you know, I'm very excited for the Lanterns series on HBOMAX, and I am very excited for the Clayface movie. So, but I'm excited for the franchise moving forward. Now, what James Gunn has, James Gunn, who is as far as the head of DC Films, he's the creative, their co-CEO of DC Studios. He's on the creative side. Something he said at the outset when he started this whole reinvention is that on rare occasions he would bring actors and characters from the previous DC film universe, the Snyderverse, if you will. He would bring them over from that franchise and have them play the same character in his universe, not continue, but like John Cena is still playing Peacemaker. You can forget what happened in season 1 though. But he's still Peacemaker, if that makes any sense. So let me just preface this by saying I believe there are a number of reasons why the I believe there are 2 or 3 reasons why the Snyderverse failed. I believe, and one is that they critically and financially, I believe they critically and financially failed. But most important, and I believe they critically and financially failed because most of the movies weren't very good. There were a few bright spots. though. And one of those bright spots, and by the way, if you haven't seen this movie, you should, because it's really, really good, is the Blue Beetle movie. Starring, I'm going to mispronounce his name, Zolo Mariduena. It came out in 2023, I believe. It was released, around the time when the Snyderverse was on its way out, and everybody acknowledged that. So it didn't get a lot of love at the box office. But it's really, really good. It's really, really good. And that was, like I said, one of the few bright spots in the Snyderverse. Well, there's been some news regarding the future of the James Gunn DC film universe, more specifically, the Superman sequel, Man of Tomorrow. This article is on Deadline, published by Rosie Cordero. And this article says, surprise! Zolo Mariduena will be suiting up as the Blue Beetle again as part of the cast of the Superman sequel Man of Tomorrow film. Sources close to production confirmed to Deadline. Deadline has reached out to DC Studios for comment. So he will join the cast. That includes Superman, Lex Luthor, Brainiac, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Eve Tessmacher, Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, Maxima. Aaron Pierre is going to be in it as Green Lantern. John Stewart. This is really, really interesting. And this is awesome. Because, again, from the outset, James Gunn has said, yeah, I might, on rare occasion, bring some people and some actors and characters over from the previous, from the Snyderverse, but it's not going to be a continuation. Like, again, John Cena is playing Peacemaker, but, like, Peacemaker Season 1 isn't canon to what I'm doing. Like, that's Peacemaker Season 2 is canon, but not Season 1. And this is, so, Zolo Mariduena will be playing Blue Beetle, but he won't be playing, like, the Blue Beetle movie won't be canon to the James Gunn DC universe. He'll be playing Blue Beetle, but it'll be a different. It's difficult to explain, but it's like the origin of Blue Beetle, like the Blue Beetle, what happened in the Blue Beetle movie isn't canon anymore. That's from a previous universe. But he'll be playing Blue Beetle again. This is awesome. This is awesome. First of all, like I said, if you haven't seen, and I know it isn't canon, the story isn't canon, but that Blue Beetle movie is really, really good. It's really, really good, and I didn't think it would be, but it is. And Zolo Mariduena was fantastic as Blue Beetle. Now, he played, I want to make sure, he played the Jamie Reyes iteration of Blue Beetle. Um, and um, and he was fantastic. He was fantastic in the role, and I can't wait. I wonder what role he's how much of a role he's going to play in Man of Tomorrow. That's going to be interesting, and how I wonder how what kind of role he'll play and how big of a role he'll play, and um, it's great to see. Um, it's great to see this. It's great to see this. Even though that Blue Beetle movie didn't get the recognition that it deserved, um, James Gunn obviously saw, yeah, that he was really good in that movie. I'm going to bring him over, and we're going to start. He's still going to be playing Blue Beetle, but we're starting fresh. That's really cool, and I'm really really interested into seeing. I'm really really interested in seeing what kind of a role he'll play in Man of Tomorrow. Excuse me. So, yeah, this is awesome. So jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about Blue Beetle appearing in Man of Tomorrow. Okay. So, moving on here. Okay, so this next bit of news is, I'm a big Jason Statham fan. I mean, he has what he's done. I mean, he basically revived. Excuse me. I'm a big Jason Statham fan. He basically helped revive, or solely revived, the action genre in the 2000s. Um, and some of the movies are kind of schlocky, and I mean, he's no Schwarzenegger, but who is? But I'm a huge. I'm a huge fan of him, and he does his it's great. Um, but he's again he basically helped usher in a new era of action movies in the 2000s, and he's gonna be in this new movie that's gonna be directed by David Leitch. Um, now, uh, David Leitch directed The Fall Guy. He directed Deadpool 2. And he directed Bullet Train, and he also directed the Hobbs and Shaw movie, which, of course, Jason Statham starred in. So David Leitch is going to be directing this movie starring Jason Statham, called it's going to be this action comedy called Jason Statham Stole My Bike. uh, and there's been some casting news uh, regarding uh, that movie. Um, this article is on Deadline, published by Andreas Weissman. And this article says that we can reveal that Emmy winner Hannah Waddingham from Ted Lasso has been set to star opposite Jason Statham in David Leitch's action comedy Jason Statham Stole My Bike, which has been filming since June in the UK and Malta. Let's see. Now they worked together. Hannah Waddingham and David Leitch worked together on The Fall Guy. So this is hilarious. Plot details are being kept under wraps, but it'll see Statham in the role of a lifetime playing global action superstar Jason Statham. So Jason Statham will be playing himself. The big budget, it says here, the big budget project is said to include a number of action set pieces and is being conceived as a PG-13 with tongue firmly in cheek, per the movie's meta title. This sounds awesome. There's nothing, nothing puts a smile on my face quite like when actors play fictional versions of themselves. And I'm a big I'm a big Jason Statham fan as it is, and I'm looking forward to him playing a fictional version of himself, this meta type role. And Hannah Waddingham, she was great in The Fall Guy. I have not watched Ted Lasso though. I'm not gonna lie, it does. I have no interest in it. But she was solid. She was great in The Fall Guy. Yeah, this sounds like such a hilarious movie for David Leitch to make. I can't wait for this. So jump in the comments section and let me know what you guys think about Jason Statham and Hannah Waddingham co-starring in Jason Statham Stole My Bike. Okay, so this next bit of news is one that I think I personally have been waiting for 12 years. So, a little bit of background. So, back in 2011, there was an animated movie that was directed by Steven Spielberg called The Adventures of Tintin. It was a 3D motion capture animated film, and it was directed by Steven Spielberg, and it was based on the Belgian comic series, The Adventures of Tintin. And it won. Hold on, I want to make sure. Hold on, I want to make sure. It was nominated for many awards. Let me see here. It won. No. It was nominated for best original score for John Williams. I think it was nominated for best. Basically, hold on. I love when they come out of nowhere like that. Sorry. Wow. I'm still recovering. It was nominated for numerous awards. And I remember it didn't play very long in theaters, unfortunately. Which is, and I say unfortunately because it's really really good. It's really really good. And if you haven't seen it, you should. Um, Now, a for the past 12 to 15 years, um, anybody who's seen uh, that movie has been impatiently waiting for a second film. And now we finally have news regarding a sequel to The Adventures of Tintin. This article is on CBR, published by Lee Freitag. This article says Peter Jackson is finally directing another narrative feature. 12 years after The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, Jackson confirmed that he will be stepping behind the camera for the sequel to The Adventures of Tintin. Let's see. He was at this event. He was at this event for the 30th anniversary of the Frighteners. And he said that Fran Walsh and I have been writing a script for the next Tintin film because 15 years ago, Steven Spielberg directed a Tintin film and I produced it, said Jackson. The idea was that then I was supposed to go straight onto a second one and we'd swap the roles, so I'd direct the second one and he'd produce it. Jackson continued, "It's just taken 15 years to get there, unfortunately, a bit late, but it's a timeless story. So we just wrapped up, so probably the next film that I'd actually direct is a Tintin movie." Now this is yeah, and this is huge because anybody who's seen the original film has been impatiently waiting and eagerly anticipating this film. Now, of course, the natural concern is it's been since 2011. Is anybody going to be interested in seeing this movie? I know I will be, but will anybody else? I mean, the movie's really, really good. And honestly, Peter Jackson, the Battle of the Five Armies notwithstanding, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. Peter Jackson is one of my favorite directors. This article mentions The Frighteners. If you haven't seen The Frighteners, holy cow, you got to see that movie. So this and this is his first. I mean, he's done He's done some documentary. He's made a few documentaries. He did one about the Beatles, but this is his first narrative feature since the Battle of the Five Armies, and I am really really looking forward to this movie because, and I'll never forget this. It didn't play in theaters very long, but the first Tintin movie, I remember I really wanted to see it, so I went to an 11 a.m. showing of the Tintin movie, and I drove like half an hour to see it, and I really enjoyed it, and it's really really good. So yeah, so Peter Jackson will be directing, I guess, the Adventures of Tintin 2 or whatever it's going to be called, the second Tintin movie, and I'm really looking forward to it. So jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about a sequel to The Adventures of Tintin finally happening and Peter Jackson directing it. What do you guys think? Jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. Okay, so going back to the James Gunn DC universe for this next bit of news, there is going to be a Superman spin-off series. And it's going to be about it's going to be centered on Jimmy Olsen. And it's going to be played by the same actor who played Jimmy Olsen in the Superman movie. Hold on just a second. Okay. Okay. There's going to be a Jimmy Olsen centered Superman spinoff TV show on HBOMAX. And there's been some casting news regarding that series. This article is on CBR, published on July 15th. This article says, the next DCU star has officially been revealed. While it was reported earlier this month that Jimmy Tatro was being eyed for a role in the upcoming Superman spin-off series, the actor has now officially signed on. Deadline reports that Jimmy Tatro is now set to play Gorilla Grodd in the planned HBO Max series centering on Superman's Jimmy Olsen. Now, I should point out that this article does say, while Tatro is now signed on, there's still a chance that the project won't come to fruition, as it still has yet to be officially greenlit by HBO. Now, Jimmy Tatro, he created the YouTube channel Life According to Jimmy, and he was in Scream 7. He was in 22 Jump Street. He was in Bad Education. He's going to play Gorilla Grodd. Now, for those who don't know who Gorilla Grodd is, let me give you a And it's, by the way, this show is rumored to be titled DC Crime. Let me give you a brief character biography on Gorilla Grodd. So, Gorilla Grodd is typically a nemesis in the comics. Gorilla Grodd is a nemesis for the Flash. He's a villain role for the Flash. Gorilla Grodd is he's basically a super intelligent gorilla, who, because of a scientific accident, became smarter than other primates. He possesses superhuman strength and high intellect. He can also use telepathy and telekinesis. In fact, Gorilla Grodd was in, and I have not seen it, but Gorilla Grodd was in the Flash series, and he's also appeared in several animated DC projects. So yeah. Let me see here. Anything else to add about Gorilla Grodd? Yeah. Yeah. Now, what's interesting about, Gorilla Grodd is primarily an antagonist of the Flash, but he's also fought Superman and Batman. So maybe just because he's mainly known in the comics as an antagonist of the Flash. Maybe they're going, this is kind of bringing in Gorilla Grodd is the first introduction. They're going to start bringing in more DC heroes into this new DC film universe. Maybe Gorilla Grodd is the first hint of the Flash, of a new Flash that we're going to see. I would love that. And I have no idea what this rumored DC crime show, I know it's going to center on Jimmy Olsen, but other than that, I have no idea, like, what are the stories going to be, like, what is, like, maybe investigative reporting, I don't know, maybe involving superheroes, I really have no idea. But as a fan, knowing that, I mean, again, Gorilla Grodd has fought Superman and Batman in the comics, but he is primarily known as an antagonist of the Flash. Maybe this is the first, bringing in Gorilla Grodd is the first stepping stone in bringing in the Flash to this film universe. That would be great. That would be awesome. I love this. I don't know. Now, this article does not say it would be really cool, and I don't know whether they would do this, but this article does not say whether it's just going to be a voice role. Is this going to be motion capture? That would be cool. That would be really, really cool if they did motion capture for this show, for Gorilla Grodd. That would be awesome. But this article does not say how they're going to do it. But Gorilla Grodd. I mean, this is this is part of why I love James Gunn so much, is that he just brings in characters that we've always loved, but you never thought you'd see. You know, like who would have ever thought that you'd see a DC crime show with Gorilla Grodd? Like, come on. But anyway, so yeah. So jump at the comment section and let me know your guys' thoughts on Gorilla Grodd appearing in a Jimmy Olsen DC crime series for HBO Max. Okay, so moving on here. Oh yes. So this next bit of news is a bit it kind of sucks. So one of my favorite filmmakers, probably of the past 20 years, is J.J. Abrams. Now, J.J. Abrams did direct The Rise of Skywalker, which is terrible. However, he also directed the first two Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto Star Trek movies, both of which I thoroughly enjoy. He also directed Super 8, which is great. He directed The Force Awakens, which is great. I think that's it. What else? He directed Mission Impossible 3 with Philip Seymour Hoffman as the villain. That was really good. You know, I really like him as a director. Again, didn't care so much for The Rise of Skywalker, but you know, it is what it is. Well, he's got this upcoming movie. It's this sci-fi fantasy movie called The Great Beyond. Not much is known about it. Well, let me rephrase. I don't know too much about it. I do know that it's going to star Glenn Powell and Jenna Ortega, both of whom I really like. And that movie was supposed to come out on November 13th. There's this article here on Deadline published by Anthony D'Alessandro, and it gives a lot of Warner Brothers movies that are being delayed. And one of them is this sci-fi fantasy movie, The Great Beyond. It was supposed to open on November 13th of this year. And it's being moved. Excuse me. I am so sorry about this. But I really wanted to do the show today. It was supposed to open on November 13th of this year, but it has now been moved to October 1st of next year. So, almost a year. Now, these changes are probably, well, these movies that are being delayed, and more specifically, there are a couple of movies that are being delayed, but the one I'm talking about, this Great Beyond movie, It's probably getting delayed because of everything that's going on with the Paramount Warner Brothers merger. Because this is a Warner Brothers movie. Warner Brothers is distributing this movie. And it's probably being delayed because of everything that's going on with this merger. Because as far as the Paramount executives are concerned, as far as the executives are concerned, they thought that this merger would be done by now, and it's not. And it does, and because of what I've read earlier in this show, the merger ain't going to happen anytime soon. Let me try. Let me look something up here really quick. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, you know, that probably has a lot to do with it. Which, from an executive standpoint, kind of makes sense. I mean, it sucks for fans, but it makes sense. I will say this. Other than The Rise of Skywalker, I have either I have enjoyed everything J.J. Abrams has directed. I mean, that the first Star Trek movie that he did, I mean, I fucking love that movie. I don't care what anybody says. I fucking love that movie. And I was a Star Trek fan long before that movie came out. You know, and I loved Force Awakens like beyond words. Super 8 is great. And this will be his first directorial effort since The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, we'll see what happens. I like Glenn Powell. I think it's unfortunate that the movies that he's been in lately have tanked at the box office. I like Jenna Ortega. I just wish, it's so interesting to me. Like I generally speaking, I don't really have, like, if someone were to ask me, Nate, what are your like my if someone were to ask me about my taste in movies, I don't really have one. Like, I'll watch anything. But I will say that I wish the kinds of movies, and I'm just saying this for me personally. I'm not saying that the movies that Jenna Ortega have been bad. I'm saying that for the most part, the kinds of movies that Jenna Ortega has been in have not appealed to me. And I wish they would, because I like her as an actress. I will say this: she was great in Beetlejuice too. She was great. I really enjoyed that movie, and she was great in it. And I'm not saying that the movies that she's been in are bad. All I'm saying is, I've seen trailers for movies that she's been in, and been like, man, I really wish I was interested in seeing that movie. Um, but this one I am. And uh, but again, this delay probably has a lot to do with the the lack of movement on the Paramount Warner Brothers merger, and that makes sense. So I just thought I would talk about that for a minute. Um, Not much is known about the movie, but what do you guys think about J.J. Abrams as a director? What do you guys um, what do you guys? I just thought I'd talk about that for a minute. Okay. So this next bit of news is kind of surprising. Speaking of movie release dates being moved. Let me see here. Where is it? Oh, here it is. So, I talked on last episode. One of the film franchises that I like, but I think it's one of the film franchises that I like is the Conjuring film franchise. You know, I think the main Conjuring movies have gone downhill since the second one. I like Annabelle. I really enjoy Annabelle Comes Home and Annabelle Creation. The first Annabelle, not so much. I hated that movie. Um, then there's The Nun and The Nun 2. I haven't even seen The Nun 2. Let me see here. I'm blanking. I apologize. So there's The Nun, which I hated. Annabelle Creation, which I really enjoyed. Haven't seen The Nun 2. Hated the first Annabelle. Annabelle Comes Home, I really enjoyed. Oh, The Curse of La Llorona. That one, The Curse of La Llorona. Yeah, that one was terrible too. Um, but one thing I didn't know was that there's, for whatever reason, there's going to be a sequel to The Curse of La Llorona. There's probably going to be a sequel because it made money. Because it's certainly not because the movie was good. That's just me. There's going to be a sequel to The Curse of La Llorona. It's going to be called The Revenge of La Llorona. Now, and it's going to be hold on, let me see if there's any information about that movie. Okay. So it's going to be called The Revenge of La Llorona. And it's going to be directed by Santiago Mengini. which is good because, as I said last time, I like the fact, the films that I hate the most in the Conjuring universe, the films that I think are terrible, were all directed by Michael Chavez. I don't think he was a very good director, and those movies were not very good. But so The Revenge of La Llorona is going to be directed by Santiago Mengini, who let me see here if I've seen anything he has. I have not seen anything that he's made. So he's an unknown director, which is cool. That's great. So anyway, The Revenge of La Llorona was originally going to come out. Let me just preface this. This article is on Screen Rant, published by Nick Bythro. And it gives some information just about the Conjuring. It gives information about the Conjuring First Communion, which I covered on my last episode, on the last episode. But in terms of The Revenge of La Llorona, it was originally supposed to come out in April of next year. And it's now been moved up to February of next year. So it's been moved up 2 months. Now, it's so funny. This article says the Curse of La Llorona was critically panned upon its release, earning a 26% rating on earning a 26% critic score based on 188 reviews and a 34% audience score from 2,500 ratings. However, it was still a box office success, earning $123.2 million against a $9 million budget. That's why it's getting a sequel, is that it made a shit ton of money. So it's moved up 2 months. This is interesting because one, I didn't know that we were even getting a sequel to The Curse of La Llorona. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, like, just because I haven't heard of it, I'm not the fucking authority on this shit. I'm just now reading about this movie. So it's not my job. I'm not going to sit here and say I should have known about this. I'm not the authority. I'm not out there every day. I'm just reporting on what I find out as I find it out. I didn't even know this was happening. But financially speaking, it makes sense that we're getting this sequel. Let me tell you why I think this is interesting. This is interesting because of the new creative team behind this movie. And by that I mean a new director, and let me just see something here. Okay, so new director. So there will be a different director and writer for the Revenge of La Llorona than there was on the Curse of La Llorona. New creative team. New creative team, and the fact that this movie has been bumped up 2 months, so we're getting it 2 months earlier than originally anticipated. That says to me that this new creative team has made a good movie, and thank God. Thank God. I at some point, I think the only movie in the Conjuring movie that I think the only movie that I haven't seen in the Conjuring universe is The Nun 2. Yeah, that's the only one. I'm not looking forward to watching it because I hated The Nun so much, but I will eventually. I think the films in the Conjuring universe outside of the main Conjuring movies need, that jolt of, like, holy shit, that jolt of, like, that, whatever you want to call it. And the fact that this movie has been moved up 2 months says that the new creative team, new director, new writer, that this movie is good. And thank God. Because I don't know, man. I think if this... I'm interested in the Conjuring prequel, First Communion. I'm interested in that. But I think there's a danger because of the quality of Conjuring 3 and 4. And they're fine. They're fine movies. They're not nearly as good as the first two. But more specifically, the films like The Nun 2, the first Annabelle movie, The Curse of La Llorona, those movies are terrible. And I think there's a danger of people not going to see these movies anymore. And you have to make good movies. And I'm interested in The Conjuring First Communion. And now with this new creative team behind The Revenge of La Llorona and it being up 2 months, that says to me that they've made a good movie, and hopefully they have. Because if these next two movies in the Conjuring universe aren't good, I think this franchise is dead. But we'll see. I'm encouraged by this news. New creative team, moved up 2 months. I'm encouraged by that. So we'll see. Hopefully they've made a good movie. Anyway, jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on The Revenge of La Llorona. Okay, so this next bit of news. So last episode, you guys remember I got that email from my buddy Josh, or not Joseph. I always do that. I remember I called him Josh one time and he looked at me like weird. Joseph, and he was asking me about the future of the Marvel, the upcoming Marvel films, and I kind of hinted at this a little bit, but I was like, we're not getting that. Like I don't. I kind of hinted that we're not getting the Mahershala Ali Blade movie. And here's why we're not getting it. So, this article is on Deadline. Published by Armando Tinoco. And he was promoting Spider-Man Brand New Day, which, by the way, has made a bonkers amount of money opening weekend. Spider-Man Brand New Day has had an opening weekend of $927 million worldwide. That's the second best opening weekend of all time, behind, guess what, Avengers Endgame. That is crazy. But anyway, Kevin Feige was promoting Spider-Man Brand New Day on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. And let me just read this article here. Kevin Feige has some feelings about the failed Blade reboot starring Mahershala Ali that has yet to materialize. While promoting Spider-Man Brand New Day, the Marvel Studios president revealed how he feels over the film not being made. I am feeling like a gigantic loser and failure that we didn't get it off the ground with Mahershala, Feige said on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. Now, it was. Let me explain why in this specific instance I don't think any of us. Let me just say this. I don't think any of us will ever be able to grasp or have any idea of how hard Kevin Feige works. He is infuriatingly brilliant at his job and what he has created with this Marvel Cinematic Universe, which for the record, I believe that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the greatest film franchise in the history of cinema. And it always will be. However, in this instance, in generally speaking, Kevin Feige is by no means a loser and a failure. What he has created and accomplished since 2008 is unparalleled. However, in this instance, I would not call him a failure. I would say that I would not call him a loser and a failure. I would say that he should feel like he lost the battle and failed to make a Blade movie with Mahershala Ali. and it's good of him to admit that. He failed to he failed to get a Mahershala Ali Blade movie. He failed to get that made, and he should feel bad about it. Because, and let me just refresh everybody's memory, this movie was announced 7 years ago. A Blade movie starring Mahershala Ali was announced 7 years ago. Since then, the project has been met with multiple delays, including the writer's strike. You know, the directors exited the film at one point. And let me just clarify something. He says, "I am feeling like a gigantic loser and failure that we didn't get it off the ground with Mahershala." That particular phrasing says to me, you know, I feel like a gigantic loser and a failure for not getting it off the ground. That says to me, I'm done trying to get it off the ground. It's not going to happen. A Blade movie starring Mahershala Ali is not going to happen. Okay, now we know that. I still think, and I'll say this again, Joseph, if you're watching, I still think Mahershala Ali is going to play Blade, but not in a Blade movie. I said this on my last episode, and I'll say this again. I think we're going to get a Midnight Suns movie with Mahershala Ali as Blade. Now, again, the Midnight Suns were kind of this supernatural, horror-themed team of superheroes. You had Ghost Rider, you had Blade, you had Moon Knight. I can't remember who else. I think that's going to happen. I don't, but as far this seals the deal. We're not getting a Blade a Blade movie with Mahershala Ali. Again, I still think Mahershala Ali is gonna play Blade, but not in a Blade movie, which sucks. You know, and again, anybody who's seen Deadpool and Wolverine, there's only one Blade, and there's only ever gonna be one Blade. You know, and then Deadpool kind of looks at the camera like, you know, and I'm just like, wow. And that was even I saw that, and I was just like, wow. Even Ryan Reynolds knows what we all know, you know. I think we're gonna get a Midnight Suns movie. That's all I'm saying. I'll also say this. Kevin Feige should feel bad that this movie was announced 7 years ago and he wasn't able to get it off the ground. He should feel bad. However, in the grand scheme of things, I would say this to Kevin Feige if I saw him. I would say, don't beat yourself up too much. And I say this as a fan. What he has achieved achieved since 2008 will never be duplicated or copied ever again. Don't beat yourself up too much, but you should feel bad. But now we know. Now we know. It sucks, but we move on. I would have loved to see it. I would have loved to see it. But I think there's hope for. I really believe in that light at the end of the tunnel. In that I still think we're gonna see Mahershala Ali play Blade, not in a Blade movie, but we're gonna see him as Blade. That's all I'm saying. That's what I believe. It sucks that a Blade movie with him, with Mahershala Ali, isn't going to happen. It sucks. But now that we know that, and as fans, we need to move on. So, yeah. So I just thought I would talk about that for a hot minute, for a few minutes. Okay, one last bit of news here. Going back to the Conjuring franchise. So there's the Conjuring prequel, which I talked about last episode. It's a prequel movie, and it's gonna be played by a new actor and actress taking over the roles of Ed and Lorraine Warren. No idea what it's going to be about, but it's going to be called The Conjuring First Communion. And there's been some casting news regarding that movie. And I am going to horrifically butcher this man's name, but I'm going to make an attempt. This article is on Deadline, published by Matt Grobar. Matthias Schweighöfer. Matthias Schweighöfer, the German actor known for the likes of Oppenheimer and Netflix's Army of Thieves, is set for a role in New Line horror prequel The Conjuring First Communion. No word on the role to be played by Schweighöfer. Garrett Waring and Amanda Fix are leading the film as young versions of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Yeah. Matthias Schweighöfer was also in Army of the Dead, the Zack Snyder zombie flick. He played Werner Heisenberg in Oppenheimer. Yeah. So no role. He's set for a role in The Conjuring First Communion. Who knows what that role is going to be? I don't know what this says about me, but I'm always like, I'm always interested in uh, because a good protagonist, a good hero is only as good as a good antagonist, a good villain. And I don't know what this says about me, but I always find good villains interesting. You know, uh, what's that saying? When you're a kid, you cheer for Batman, but when you grow up, you realize the Joker was a lot more interesting. By the way, that's completely true. Um, it would be interesting. Like, is this going to be? Is he going to play an antagonist kind of role? Like, is he going to get possessed? Is he? You know, I'm always interested in antagonists and villains. Not that I'm not with the protagonist hero role. It's just um, like I and villains uh, pique my curiosity. I don't know why, and I don't know what that says about me. And again, not that I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess I guess I guess my point is, like, a good hero is only as good as a good villain, and I'm always like, I don't know why I'm always like, who's the villain gonna be, but it would be it's set for a role. I wonder how big the role is going to be. There's no information about it. Is he going to play an antagonist kind of role? Is it going to be like is it going to be like, because if you watch the main Conjuring movies, Ed and Lorraine Warren go to a priest to um, get approval for the Vatican. Maybe he's playing a father, a priest. Maybe he's playing. They have all these. Ed and Lorraine Warren have guys who handle all the camera equipment. Maybe he's playing one of those guys. Maybe who knows who he could play, who he could be playing. I'm just coming off of um, Army of the Dead, and playing um, Heisenberg in Oppenheimer. I'm looking forward to seeing him in this movie, whatever role he's playing. So jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on Matthias Schweighöfer. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Joining the Conjuring First Communion. Well, folks, that will about do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed the show. Joseph, I'm sorry that I called you Josh again. I humbly apologize. I can't believe I did that again. Yeah, so that'll do it for this episode. I will be back on Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday. I'm going to do 2 episodes on Tuesday. There's just, because of the time off that I've had, there's so much to catch up on. But I didn't want to do it all in one fell swoop. I didn't want to do it all one time. I wanted to do half and half. So I'm going to do the other half on Tuesday. I'm going to do 2 episodes on Tuesday. So I hope you enjoy I hope you enjoyed the show today. I hope you continue to enjoy the show in the future, and I also hope that this show in some way brings you joy, because I know that there's a lot of crazy shit going on in the world, and if you know, there's a lot of stuff that I do to try and forget about the to try and forget about all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and doing this show is one of them. And I hope that this show does the same for you. Um, so Tuesday, two shows. Katie and I are going to wait a couple weeks to see Spider-Man: Brand New Day. Um, and so yeah. Anything else? Anything else? No, I think that's it. Hope you enjoyed the show and continue to in the future. And until Tuesday, I will see you at the movies.